Testing, 1, 2, 3.
If we ain't careful, won't we?
Sure will.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Testing, 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 1, 2, 3. Got it all?
May I have your attention, please? Will the meeting please come to order? We'll ask the Reverend Allen Johnson from the United Methodist Church in Laurel to bring the invocation.
Thank you. I'd like to have you consider a few verses of Scripture from 1 Corinthians. But I, brethren, could not address you as spiritual men, but as men of the flesh, as babes in Christ. I fed you with milk, not solid food, for you were not ready for it. And even yet you are not ready, for you are still of the flesh. For while there is jealousy and strife among you, are you not of the flesh? And behaving like ordinary men, for when one says, I belong to Paul, another, I belong to Apollos, are you not merely men? What then is Apollos? What is Paul? Servants through whom you believe, as the Lord assigned each. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who gives the growth. He who plants and he who waters are equal, and each shall receive his wages according to his labor. For we are fellow workers for God. You are God's field, God's building. We read these 9 verses from the 3rd chapter of 1 Corinthians. Our heads bowed. O God, who moveth in love unceasing, and does give to each man his appointed work, help us steadfastly to fulfill the duties of our calling. When our Lord shall take account of us, we may be found faithful. As we set our faces once more toward our daily work, as we come to this our convention to give an account of our stewardship, and as we leave these walls, we pray for strength sufficient for our task. May Christ's spirit of duty and service ennoble all we do. Uphold us by our consciousness that our work is useful work and will be a blessing to all. If there's been anything in our work harmful to others and dishonorable to ourselves, reveal it to our inner eye with such clearness that we shall hate it and put it away, so it be a loss to ourselves. When we work with others, help us to regard them not as servants to our will, but as brothers equal to us in human dignity, and equally worthy of their full reward. May there be nothing in this day's work of which we shall be ashamed, for the sun is set. Now in the eventide of our life, when our task is done, and we go to the end of our day's labor, we humbly beseech thee to put away all strife and contention between those who are engaged in labor, those who employ their labor. Deliver them from all greed, and grant that they, seeking only that which is just and equal, may live and work in brotherly union and concord to thy glory. Amen. Amen. And amen.
would like to bring you greetings from the Jackson Central Labor Union and welcome each of you to the Jackson ARI. We appreciate you bringing this convention here, and we would like to say that if there is anything that we can do to assist you in any way today, be sure and call on us. We'll be ready to try to help in any way we can. In order to move this meeting right along, I'm going to now introduce to you your president, Claude Ramsey, to take over the meeting, which he will handle now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George. In connection with your offer to be of some assistance, let me say that we've got a lot of room for assistance. We've been in a state of confusion around here for some time now, and if there's anything that you can do to help us get this snafu situation straightened out, we'd certainly appreciate it. It's a real pleasure to see so many of our people out today. I'm sure each and every one of you present realize that decisions that are made here today will affect the welfare of our state for years to come. The officers of the state AFL-CIO, that includes the executive officers, the board, spent many long hours in attempting to bring to you here today some concrete recommendations for people running for political office. We frankly feel that at this time, in this particular election year, that we might well turn our state around and head it in the proper direction. Before the day is over, you will have heard from not only your executive board and some of its recommendations, but you will be hearing from a gentleman that we feel that might eventually be elected Speaker of the House of Representatives, a position that we deem more important than the governor of our state. Of course, you will be considering other positions, people running for other offices, but in my opinion, frankly, the gentleman that you'll hear from here this morning will be one of the most important people to be seeking office in our state. And hopefully, those of you from Madison County will see to it that he is reelected to the legislature, whereby he might run as Speaker of the House. Now, we have got a problem. And of course, we haven't had anything but problems for some time. To begin with, we had planned to have a convention this fall because the legislature had passed a bill that would have provided for an election this fall. Then the courts threw out that particular law, and we had to revert back to the old election laws, which meant that we had just about half the time to get prepared for this convention as we do ordinarily. And frankly, we're not really ready yet. And of course, some of you have had some real problems in finding the place. Some of you run up down that highway out here several times, I'm sure, trying to find out where the motel was. And we've already advised the motel that they should get a bigger sign out here where people could find the doggone place. We had one member of our board, for instance, a car broke down, and she had to come in by transportation truck. The man on the desk didn't quite understand what was going on when the young lady got out of the truck out here. We had another delegate that got into the cow killing business down below Hattiesburg. Somebody turned some cows out, and he crashed into the cows. And I understand he does have some tags or something out of the ears, you know, that he might identify who owned the cows, maybe he can get reimbursed for his automobile. And we've had a number of other delegates that have also had problems of automobile breakdown and stuff like this. Well, you've got my sympathy, those of you that have these problems, but we've got problems also from my end of it, you know, trying to get ready and get things moving. Now, another problem that we've got is simply this. There's another group coming to this hotel, and we're going to have to be out of it by 1:30. So, if the delegates are willing, we'll try to just run this thing right on through and get through with it as soon as we can, and then check out and get the hell out of the place, but I can't say that with the reverend sitting up here. Now, when we got caught up in all of this, we couldn't find a place to meet. This was the only place in the city of Jackson that we could find that had a room big enough to get you together in, and I'm not too sure it's even big enough at that, because it looked like the place was pretty full. We had originally scheduled a thing at the Heidelberg Hotel, and of course I know that many of you are fed up with that place, so one of these days we're going to find a decent place to meet in, believe you me. Now, I'm not going to make you a speech. We're going to try to push this thing along just as rapidly as we can. And I'm going to ask Brother James Jackson, the chairman of the Credentials Committee, if he'll come forward and give us a partial report on the Credentials Committee. Will somebody get him in the back, see if he can come up and give us a partial report? Try to get through. Okay? Is that okay? All right. And the chairman of the Credentials Committee.
This will be a partial report, and we've been working real hard to get finished with it, so it's not much detail. So far we have 29 guests and 217 delegates, and we ask that the delegates that's been registered be seated, and I so move.
You've heard the motion to seat the delegates that have been registered. Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. We will now call upon the chairman of the Rules Committee, Brother Marvin Taylor, to give us that report.
Report of the Rules Committee, which is composed of the following people: Bob Woodson, E.V. Edwards, Herbert Williams, George Johnson, Mary Smith, Eloise Hampton. You have copies, I believe. You follow along as we read. They're giving them out? All right. For just a moment while...
Time situation Can we proceed? Has everybody got a copy of the rules? Okay. Not over here? Okay, we'll hold just a minute then.
Give us your attention. We'll proceed with the reading of the rules. Rule number 1, the convention shall be called to order at 9:30 a.m. and will recess at 12 o'clock noon for lunch. The convention will reconvene at 1:30 p.m. and adjourn when all business has been transacted. Every delegate desiring to speak on any subject shall proceed to the mic in his area and be recognized by the chair, announce his name and organization he represents. Rule number 3. A delegate shall not speak more than once on the same subject until all who wish to speak have had an opportunity to do so, no more than twice, no longer than 5 minutes at a time, without the unanimous consent of the convention. Rule number 4. Any delegate to the Mississippi AFL-CIO Cope Convention who disturbs the peace and dignity of the convention shall be barred from a seat or a vote in the deliberations of this convention. Rule number 5. The roll call vote shall be taken on the demand of 30% of the delegates. Rule number 6. The Cope bylaws shall be the guide on all matters for which no provision is made herein. Rule number 7. The foregoing rules can only be changed by a 2/3 vote of the delegates present and voting. By common consent, I believe we will have to disregard somewhat rule number 1, inasmuch as the situation has called for a change in the schedule of we having to be out of this hall by 1 o'clock. So that will automatically be amended to go right on through with the proceedings until we have finished, hopefully by 1 o'clock. With that amendment and these others, as has read, we make a motion that the rules as read and amended be adopted by the convention.
You've heard the report of the committee and the motion to adopt the rules is read with the one change. Not all in favor of adoption of the rules signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now, in view of the fact that we're going to have to go right on through, I think that it would probably be best to amend the agenda that you have in front of you to the effect that that instead of breaking up for the caucus to consider district offices in the middle of the thing and then coming back with a full report, that we should do that after we adopt the full report. This means that there's some of you here that out of the Central District, for instance, would be able to get on out because we don't have any contests. So with your permission, we'll revise the agenda whereby the caucus of districts will be at the end instead of in the middle. But we'd originally planned on having a caucus just before lunch, then have you come in and make your report at 1 o'clock or 1:30, and then proceed from there on in. So if there's no objections, we'll reverse that. We'll have the district caucuses at the end, and then those of you out of the Central District, if you want to, can leave when we get there. Is that agreeable? We haven't improvised all the way up and down the line. Now, we have an old friend with us here today. Matter of fact, we have several guests present, but in order to conserve some time and get on with the business, I'm not going to go through the usual procedure of introducing all of the registered guests, but we are happy to have all of you with us. We hope that you will enjoy this convention, and that when it's over with, that you'll be willing and able to help us get the job done. But we do have one individual that I'm most happy to have with us here this morning, a friend of long standing, a man that at one time was State Director of the Communication Workers of America here in Mississippi, a man that I had the pleasure of working with for a number of years, a man that I feel that had much to do with bringing together the labor movement in our state. And as a matter of fact, he was a man that I thought should be president of this organization instead of myself. But the way things worked out, Bill Webb eventually convinced me that he had more important things to do and that I was the guy that should head up this organization. Anyhow, he's done us the honor of coming down to visit with us this time, and it gives me a great deal of pleasure to present to you at this time Bill Webb. Bill?
Thank you, Claude. After an introduction like that, I can hardly wait to hear what I'm going to say. But it's more of a pleasure to me to be here than you can imagine. I can look out across this room and spot at least 30 or 40 familiar faces that if I started to reminisce, I'm afraid we'd be here past your 1:30 deadline, and I'd probably be the only one here and be the only one enjoying it. But it is a pleasure to be, when you travel as much as I do, to be in a place and know as many people as I know here. You know, I used to be accustomed to tell a story. Since we have a Protestant minister here to give the invocation this morning, I rode a plane with a priest the other day, named Father Martin from Baltimore. And in a later moment, he told me a story that I thought was pretty good. He said, Mrs. O'Reilly was checking out of Boston's Holy Cross Hospital with her 14th child, and said the Sister Superior went down to see her off and told her, said, Mrs. O'Reilly, I'll see you again next April when you come back to have your 15th. And Mrs. O'Reilly said, no, I won't be back again. She said, well, why not? You've been here every year in April for 14 years and had a child, and I'll be looking for you next year. And she said, well, there's a difference now. I have my hearing aid. And she said, what difference would a hearing aid make? He said, well, simply this. My husband, Pat, and I, for years, we sit down on the side of the bed every night, and he'd say, honey, you want to go to sleep or what? And he said, I always said, what? And now I hear what he says. But to be a little more serious, I know you have a lot of business ahead of you today. I do want to say a word of greeting to you, not only on behalf of the international organization that I represent, the CWA, but also as a member of the National Cope Operating Committee, on which there is a representative from every major union in the United States. Incidentally, the major group of that committee is out in Seattle, Washington today, holding a 5-state meeting. They've held a 7-state meeting. They held a 7-state meeting, I'll do it this way, in Atlanta, in which your delegates participated just a few days ago. And I know you're going to be discussing things that are vital to you in the state of Mississippi, and I did want to make quick mention of a very serious matter or two on the national scene at the moment. We don't have any national elections of significance coming up this year, but we very certainly do next year. And I'm sure you're aware of the fact that the economy of the United States is probably at the worst point right now that it's been in since the day of the Great Depression. There's not many of you young people were here at that time. A good many of us in our 40s were and experienced the Great Depression. Now, I don't think it's any coincidence that since I was a child, every time we've had a depression, it hurt the working man and the working woman. It's just not coincidental that it happened to come during a Republican administration. Of course, on the other hand, they always contend that us Democrats start all the wars, but it's funny we get hungrier when the Republicans are there. Now, I couldn't help but take a little issue with our president. I was at home having breakfast with my wife one day early this week, and on NBC News, they had him speaking to the American Medical Association. And he says he's now become alarmed because there's too many tranquilizers being sold in the country. And my first reaction to my wife was, for Christ's sake, he's the guy that's causing everybody to need them, you know, when you're going hungry and standing in bread lines again like they did in 1929. People still need to feed families, and they still need to do all the many things that a family has to do. No wonder there's a lot of tranquilizers being sold. We've got some of the longest unemployment lines in the United States now that we've had in many years. Now, there's one profession that we deal with on the Cope Operating Committee that I never heard of before, and it's called cephalology. And we have a professional cephalogist who meets with us as an advisor occasionally. And I had to ask somebody what cephalology was, and these are professionals who take statistics, use computers and other things, and determine a lot of facts and figures about elections. It's a pretty interesting thing to get into, and one of them, the one that meets with us, is named Richard Scammon, and he's written a book recently, if you ever get interested in this subject, called The Real Majority. And I've been reading that riding on airplanes lately, and there was a fact or two in it I'd just like to share with you that he's come up with. And one is that in looking at, and this guy used to be the director of the U.S. Census, so I believe he knows what he's talking about. In the 1968 election, looking back, maybe both major candidates made a mistake in thinking that they should go for the younger voter and pitching the campaign for the younger voter. And it ended up that the average age of the voting person in 1968 was 47 years of age. Everybody was thinking it was going to be somewhere between 25 and 30 years of age. It was 47 years of age. The youngsters who had the right to vote apparently didn't use it. Now, another one was the black vote. In the South, it turned out better than 90%, and for the most part was Democratic. From the state of Virginia north to Massachusetts and across to Detroit and Chicago, they did not vote. They just did not vote. That would have probably been the difference in the 1968 election. These are things looking back. Another one that he is convinced was probably one of the major issues and will be a major issue next year was the subject of law and order. And the candidate for the Democratic Party talked too much on the subject. In other words, he never got specific, and he got on to the roots of removing the causes for crime and that sort of thing, and the other candidate talked more directly to the point. That could have been another thing. He says that the average voter in next year's election will be a woman in her mid-40s in Canton, Ohio, who has teenagers in high school where dope has been found and where there has been a burglary in the neighborhood and where she's having trouble meeting her household financial obligations. That will be the average voter in the entire United States come the next election. Now, he says also that you should compare in looking at next year's election, the election like a football field, that each candidate will start at about the 13-yard line. In other words, Republicans to the right, the Democrats normally to the left, but they always converge on the 50-yard line, both of them on issues. Now, he's got some charts and graphs to show that the only candidate in history who never did that was Barry Goldwater. Goldwater made a great start from the 13-yard line against Lyndon Johnson. He got to the 18-yard line and he never left there on issues, and he got beat the worst in the history of anybody that ever run for president in the United States. So you have to give some credence to that argument too. He feels that whomever next year interprets the issues closest to the middle, to the liking of the general public, whatever the party is going to be the person that is our next president. And of course, it's everybody, all the pollsters feel that there is a good likelihood of beating, at least beating the Nixon administration next year, because not only the economy is the worst off and the working people are suffering more. I've never seen the armed services of this nation maligned anymore, and any more loose-knit organizations such as secret papers being let go of and that sort of thing in my life. And he's the commander-in-chief of that, so he has to bear the responsibility. Now, again, for the sake of time, I want to say simply to you, I know you're going to consider a lot of important issues here today. And the one thing I would urge upon you, I don't know the candidates. I've been gone too long. I know a lot of them by name from the past, and I can't give you any advice on that, but I can give you some advice that the important thing for this Mississippi AFL-CIO COPE is unity. And whatever you do, leave here united, because you are a force to be reckoned with in Mississippi politics. And I hope you take that one with some great bit of pride, because you take, if every union member in the state of Mississippi got 3 other votes, you'd be more than a force to be reckoned with. You'd be the force that would just about decide a lot of the statewide issues. I wish you the very best in any undertaking and every undertaking, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Bill. Now you understand the reason that I felt that Bill Webb ought to be president of this organization. Bill, I'm still of that same opinion, and that I'm getting a little old and tired, you know, friend. It's about time you came back. We have another old friend with us today who needs no introduction to many of you, but there are quite a few new faces in the crowd. Dan Powell, our area COPE director, has been around for some time, and he's been down, been in a few hours with us in the last couple of days, advising me that his expense allowance had been cut down and that we'd have to provide him with something to eat every once in a while, and we have fed him 2 or 3 times. We've been reminiscing about some of our problems, about some of the progress that we've made, and we are proud, frankly, of the progress that we've made in this state. We've got many people in this convention, Dan, that this is their first time to attend a COPE convention. In the last 4 to 5 years, I think that the labor movement in this state has really moved forward. I was doing a little checking on this numbers situation a few days ago, and I found that when I was elected president of this organization first in 1959, we had approximately 40,000 members. And when and if Lytton industry gets into full swing, and when and if we maintain the labor movement in Pascagoula at Lytton, we will be pushing 85,000 members. That's more than double the membership that we had 10, 12 years ago. I run into Tom Tubb from West Point out in the coffee shop yesterday. Brother Orman and Brother White were the Boilermakers, and we got some more people here from West Point. You'll be interested in knowing what Mr. Tom Tubb told me yesterday. He said, "You've done got my town. It's all sewed up." He's absolutely right. We've got everything in West Point organized today, and at one time, a labor organizer couldn't spend the night in the city of West Point. The interesting thing is that West Point, Clay County, Mississippi today, is probably the best organized area in the state of Mississippi, and you guys from Pascagoula and Moss Point better get with it. They are way ahead of you over in West Point. You know what I mean? The result of this progress, I received an invitation, would you believe it, to address a Rotary Club in the city of West Point just a couple of months ago. The Rotary Club, now get the significance of this. The publisher of the local newspaper was there, a man that had fought everything we tried to do in that area for years, Mr. Harris. Those of you in that section know who I'm talking about. But you'll be interested in knowing that Claude Ramsey's picture appeared upon the front page of the West Point newspaper when I addressed the Rotary Club, and they did give, I think, some fairly good coverage to the remarks that I made in the city of West Point. Most of the progress that we've made, frankly, Bill, has been up in northeast Mississippi. You see, Bill's been out of the state for a while, and I'm saying this primarily for his benefit more than anything else. Most of the growth, the progress that's been made by the labor movement has been in the northeastern sector of the state. West Point, Kosciuszko. Kosciuszko is another town today that is virtually solid. We've got that town too, in the words of Tom Tubb. Now, Louisville, right, another place, Louisville, Aberdeen, Amory, Boonville, Corinth, Tupelo, Grenada. You know, 5 years ago we had very little organization in the city of Grenada. And another town that an organizer couldn't hardly spend the night in. But today, Grenada itself is pretty well sewed up. So we are very happy, Bill, over the progress that we've made. And the remarks that you made are very significant. The people present in this convention, plus your membership, when and if you decide we're going to put it all together, and frankly, I hope we put it all together in this election this year, that is, we do stand united, and the decisions made in this convention will be supported by all of us. We will turn our state around, and we will begin to make that progress we've been talking about here for years and years. Well, anyhow, the old friend is with us again, Dan Powell, the area COPE director, and it gives me a great deal of pleasure at this time to present him to you, Brother Dan Powell.
Thank you, Claude. I just wish you wouldn't emphasize that word old so strongly, though. I'm getting to the point where I'm becoming sensitive to that. You know, I'm only 20 years younger than Tom Knight. It's good to be here this morning at the largest COPE convention in the history of Mississippi. As you know, it's always been my practice to start off a talk to you by telling you a story. And this morning I have the story of this young wife of a banker who was an ardent Republican. And during the 1968 campaign, she worked her heart out for Dick Nixon and Spiro Agnew. And they were elected. And then, a few months later, she went to the hospital and gave birth to identical twin boys. Identical. She decided that since she was such a good Republican, and since she loved Richard and Spiro so much, that she would name the twins Richard and Spiro, which she did. In proper time, she came home. And shortly after she got home, she started to bathe the twins. And she discovered that she had lost the name bracelet from their ankles. And she was in a state of frustration. She didn't know Richard from Spiro. So she immediately went to the phone and called the hospital. She asked the nurse that answered. She says, you know, says a great tragedy has happened. Says, I've lost the name tags off of the ankles of Richard and Spiro. And I can't tell one from the other. What am I going to do? I can't go through life not knowing which is Richard and which is Spiro. Don't you have some footprints or fingerprints or something that will identify? The nurse says, no, says we don't make footprints and we don't make fingerprints of babies. Says we just put the identification tags on their ankles when they're born. The woman says, well, something has got to be done. Says, I just can't stand it. Well, the nurse, realizing how distraught the woman was, says, well, wait a minute, let me let you talk to the head nurse. Says, she's been here a long time. She's a wise woman. Says, maybe she can tell you a way out of your dilemma. So she put on the head nurse. The woman explained the problem to him, that she couldn't tell Richard from Spiro. Head nurse says, madam, says, that's simple. Says, tell you what to do. Says, take the diapers off. Says, put one on one knee and the other one on the other knee. Says, jog them up and down for a while. Says, now they're both going to mess you up when you do that. But the one that looks up at you and grins after he's messed you up, that will be Richard. And as many of you can attest, he has messed us up. You know, you have made real progress here in Mississippi. And I expect that I can see it even better than you can. Because you can only judge the progress that you've made in relation to where you've come from. I've been coming to this state since before some of our younger people here today were born, working with the labor movement in political action. And we were beginning to make progress in the late 40s, the early 50s. And then came the Supreme Court decision on school desegregation. And a wave of racial hysteria swept over Mississippi and the South. And it set the labor movement politically and economically back because the race issue was used to divide our people. I can remember in the 1956 and 57 elections after the Supreme Court decision, in state after state, where candidates for governor, candidates for the state legislature went up and down the state, not only in Mississippi but all over the South, and told you that if you elected them to office, they would pass laws that would bypass and prevent the Supreme Court decision from taking effect. There were a few of us that tried to tell you in those days that you were being fooled, that these men were charlatans, that they were playing to your emotions rather than to your reason, that what they promised you would not be fulfilled. And of course, time has proved that we were right. Every law that was passed in every southern state to prevent the effect of the Supreme Court decision has now been declared unconstitutional. We weren't very popular for telling you the truth. I can remember in the 1963 Coke Convention in the city of Laurel, when Mississippi was in her darkest hour of racial hysteria. I made a speech. Claude tells me that about 3 or 4 unions was affiliated after my speech. And in that speech I said that it was time for the members of trade unions in Mississippi to decide whether they were Klansmen or whether they were trade unionists, that we couldn't be both. And you know, I had a very, very hostile reaction from 1 or 2 of the delegates in the lobby after that speech was made. But thank God the racial hysteria that's beclouded the South for 15 years is now beginning to lift. We're beginning to get wiser. They can't fool us so easy. We're waking up. We are beginning to discover what the real issues are. And I believe that this is the last campaign in Mississippi that a candidate for governor would use race as his major issue, on which I asked the people of Mississippi to elect him. A lot of our members went off on that wild goose chase after Swan 4 years ago. And he's back, telling you the same things, and he's trying to fool you again. But I don't believe you're going to be fooled. School busing is something that no governor or no state legislature in Mississippi or any other state can do a thing about. The real issues in this campaign are not school busing, because they can't be decided down here. The real issues are the economic well-being of the working people of Mississippi. Whether you're going to have a better workman's compensation law, whether you're going to have better unemployment insurance, whether you're going to have a minimum wage law in this state, whether you're going to have fair taxes, whether the tax burden that's been pressed down upon the working people of this state will be lifted and an equitable tax laws enacted. These are the issues, not school busing. And I don't believe that you're going to be misled this year. Now, in state after state, the labor movement has gone out in its campaigns and state elections and devoted its energies and most of its resources to electing a governor. In some of these states, we've been successful in electing the candidate that we endorsed for governor, only to find that when that man became governor, that we didn't get our legislative program through, for the very simple reason that the governor does not pass legislation. The governor is the executive office of the state. We found in state after state where we had a friendly governor that we had a hostile Speaker of the House of Representatives, a hostile Lieutenant Governor who served as President of the Senate. As a result of the hostility in the House and the Senate by these men, committees that were unfavorable to the working people men who were unfavorable to the working people were appointed to the committees that handled the labor bills that were introduced. And as a result, these bills did not get out of committee. And we didn't get the legislation that we needed and wanted. I am very happy to see that Mississippi is leading the way in a change in strategy at this convention, where you are not placing the chief emphasis on the governor's race, but you are placing the emphasis where it should be placed, on electing a legislature that will support a candidate for Speaker of the House who is not unfriendly, who is friendly to organized labor, on electing a lieutenant governor who, as the presiding officer in the state senate, will appoint committees, appoint men to committees that will be favorable to the legislation that you want. And parenthetically, let me say this. You are the only group in the state of Mississippi, not only are you the largest group, but I believe you are almost the only group that represent the people of Mississippi. We have never, in organized labor, asked for any bill that would benefit only union members. Every piece of legislation that we support benefits non-union members and union members alike. It benefits the working people of Mississippi, who constitute a vast majority of the population of the state. So I congratulate you on your new strategy. I believe that when you leave here, if you leave in unity, that you will be successful, and that a new day is dawning for Mississippi. Now, in 1972, next year, we've also got another election that's of extreme importance to you here in Mississippi, and that's the election of a President of the United States and a Congress. You know, Mississippi has the highest percent of its citizens in poverty of any state in the nation. Nearly 50%, nearly over 50% of your black population lives in poverty, and nearly a third of your white population. Yet you have 2 United States senators and 4 congressmen who consistently vote against every bill that comes before the Senate of the United States to alleviate poverty. And I remember once Mr. Eastland in a speech before the United States Senate says, "I don't believe in government handouts. I don't believe in giving people benefits for not working." Now, this was the same Mr. Eastland who for many, many years, I would say at least 15 years, and it's probably more, has been drawing $150,000 a year on his farm up here in Mississippi Delta for not planting cotton. He doesn't believe in paying people for not working, as long as the person doesn't happen to be Jim Eastland. You have in this state a problem of education. You need better schools. You need better teachers. You need more money for education. Yet your delegation in Congress consistently votes against every federal aid to education bill that comes before the Congress of the United States. So I say that in 1972, it's time that Mississippi made some changes. It's time that we come back into the Democratic Party in Mississippi. It's It's time that we get rid of some of these congressmen. And you got a fellow from down at Pascagoula by the name of Kalma. And you know that man is even older than Tom Knight. Here we are now in the year 1971. 7/10 of the way through the 20th century. And you folks in Mr. Kalma's district are represented by a man who wasn't even born in the 20th century. He was born in the 19th century and votes like it was the 17th century. I say to you folks in his district, when you get home, go out. Find yourself a young lawyer or a young man, regardless of what his profession is. Get him to run a bill against Bill Kalma. But don't make the mistake that other candidates against Kalma made. They've tried to talk about Mr. Kalma's record. That's a mistake. Because anything as bad as Mr. Kalma's record shouldn't be spoken about. But nevertheless, the people got confused on it. You can take one issue and beat Bill Kalma. And that issue is that the people of this district deserve a congressman who was born in this century, who knows how to deal with the problems of today. You know, one of our problems in the labor movement is communication. You folks that are here have had an opportunity to know what the issues are, to know who the candidates are that labor is supporting. But unfortunately, your knowledge is not passed on to the rank and file because it's hard to reach the rank and file. And most of our rank and file members, they are not informed. Communication is our biggest problem. And once we can reach our rank and file union members with the issues, Yes.
the House of Representatives who intend to elect Elton Case to the House. With those remarks, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to present to you Representative Milton Case of Madison County. Representative Case. Thank you again. I appreciate very much you letting me impose on you by being here this morning and making these remarks. I know that you're pressed for time and you don't have a lot of time to hear someone talk about something that might be to some extent directed to him personally. Well, in the beginning, let me say this, that the matter of the election of the Speaker of the House of Representatives in your state legislature is not directed to me personally as much as it is to you. It's just as much, if not more, in your best interest that that Speaker's position be filled by someone who is fair, who is progressive, and who will relate to the people of the state as it is my interest. We fought the battle over there for a number of years. And briefly, I want to tell you what the situation is. Since 1890, and that is the Constitution under which we operate, the procedure, the tools by which we run government in Mississippi, 1890, that last generation. It's the rules under which we operate in this state. It's the procedure by which your government is conducted in the state. It determines, this government does, what kind of house you live in, what kind of streets you ride on, what kind of utilities are available to you, how much you earn. It's the thing that determines the life and the paycheck of everybody in this room and a lot of other people in the state of Mississippi. If you don't have a vested interest in that, then you've got no interest at all in the future. Now, I say that you do. In Mississippi, by virtue of that 1890 Constitution, we've emerged from a situation where we've got a strong legislative group, a weak executive, and perhaps a judiciary that's overridden politically by the aspects of the legislature itself. Emerging through the years has been the pattern where a small handful of people control the legislature, which control the executive and overpower the judiciary in the state. So in essence, instead of talking about a division of government into three separate branches, you've got a concentration of government in the hands of a very few in the legislative branch of this state government. The consequences have been in the state of Mississippi where they say no government is good government. When the legislature meets, if you don't pass a bill, that's good government. And I say to you that you know that won't stand the test of truth. You know that that won't meet the demands of the present day. You know that if we're going to live in 1971, if there's any hope for your children and your grandchildren tomorrow, then Mississippi must come up from the bottom of the ladder. It must give the people of the state the rightful place that they can occupy by virtue of the advantages we have, our natural resources, our abundance of things to work with, our people who can turn out the product here in the state of Mississippi. We need the benefits of the advantages that we have here. We can only get them if legislatively we are prepared to gear ourselves to 1971. Now I want you to understand that I'm a person who was born in Mississippi. I've lived here all my life and I intend to live here until the day I die. I feel just like you do. I have a vested interest in this state. I'm not a liberal, I'm not irresponsible, and I'm not someone who's dedicated to doing anything that anyone who wouldn't do who's interested in the people of the state. Now basically I want to tell you the two problems that we have. Number one is this: government is not related to people. The administrative programs we operate in the state aren't related to the meaning of people. In other words, in the welfare department, we don't look at the welfare department or the welfare program as a program serving the needs of the state of the people of the state in the areas where the need exists. We look at it as a mechanism by which you just undertake a duty begrudgingly to do something that should have been initiated perhaps at the state level itself to serve the defined needs of the people who fit within that category. We're interested too much in the mechanics of government and not enough in the meaning of government. Therefore, at times it gets unrelated altogether from serving and meeting the needs of the people of the state. The second thing is your legislative government is not responsive to the people. Now you go back home and you will talk to your candidates who are running for the House and for the Senate, and you tell them, now will you do this? Now will you do that? And will you do this? And they can sit and tell you, yes, I'll do that, I'll do this, and I'll do that. When they get elected to the legislature, though, it doesn't mean anything. He may be honest to you,
may be well-intended, and he may be dedicated to what he told you he'd do. But the point is that the procedure, the mechanics, and the control of the power through the committees and so forth completely thwarts and frustrates his intentions and what he told you he would do when he went to the legislature. Now, all we ask for is this, that we play it clean, that we play it direct, that we look to the fact that the economic future of the state of Mississippi, the welfare of the people of the state of Mississippi, and the full potential of our people, if we're going to ever be a people who can lift themselves up, who can meet their potential, who can develop some spiritual consciousness about life itself and about humanity itself and about the role that man is to play in life, who can meet his maker one day with an opportunity to have achieved all that he could have achieved and done the job in a manner that you'd be proud of it, then we've got to change the technique, the procedures, and the mechanics of government. Now, that is the issue that's before you. If you do not wish to change it, then don't you ever complain about it to me. If you do wish to complain, change it, then get out and do something about it. And here's what you can do. You talk to those members who are candidates for the House of Representatives, and you put the issue to them that you expect a change in the procedure by which the government is run in the state of Mississippi. Now, don't necessarily ask you to vote for me. I don't put myself before you asking you to vote for me. I put myself before you today to present the issue to you. You tell your man what the problem is when you talk to your candidate back home, and you tell him to discuss it with you and discuss it with his people back home, because they do have a vested interest in who is elected speaker. And the problem over years has been you've never heard about the speaker, have you? You've never discussed it with your candidate for the House, have you? He's never talked to you about it, has he? Well, the point is, it is the issue, and it is important. And you talk to him about it, and you get his response to it, and then you follow up on it when he's elected to the legislature, and see how he votes. See what is his tenor about the matter of this position speaking in the House of Representatives. We've lived through experience, you and I both have, for these years in the state of Mississippi. And you surely must detect that there's something wrong when the legislature can't seem to anticipate any problems until they get to crisis proportion, when it can't seem to deal with the needs of the people of the state of Mississippi until it's too late to deal with them, when we can't even react actually to the most pressing needs that fall upon our shoulders, when we don't plan ahead to take advantage of the natural resources and of the people who live in our boundaries here, when we don't do anything that shows any imagination or any idea of progressing to bring to our people the great benefits of life itself, surely you know that there's something wrong. And I submit to you that this will do more to correct it than any person you will ever elect as governor, any person you'll ever elect as lieutenant governor, and any other single office holder you'll ever elect in the state of Mississippi. Now, I appreciate you letting me talk to you about it this morning, and God bless you.
Thank you. I think the delegates have already demonstrated how they feel. And perhaps maybe we ought to be running you for governor one of these days, United States Senator. But I did want you to meet the man. He told you like it is, friend. He told it to you like it really is. Told you to you like it really is. All right, let's see if we can get Brother Jackson, the chairman of the Credentials Committee, to come in and give us a final report. We want to make sure everybody's properly seated before we get into the next order of business. And we got some people standing. Do we not have enough chairs for all of the delegates? Two up here? There's two chairs up here towards the front, a couple of you. Three? There's three seats up in this area here. Some of you like to have a seat. Come on up. Are you ready, Brother Jackson? Brother Jackson, the chairman of the Credentials Committee, for the final report.
We now have 34 guests registered, 236 delegates. This is the final report of the Registration Committee. 236.
236 delegates, 30 guests?
34 guests.
34 guests. You'll move that the delegates that have been registered be seated. We have that motion. before I ask Brother Knight to come forward and give that report, I've been asked to read the questionnaire that was used to interview candidates for governor and lieutenant governor, and I'd like to just briefly read that to you, and then we'll ask Brother Knight to come up and give the report. This was a questionnaire that was used for all candidates for governor and lieutenant governor. And I'll try to get through this as hurriedly as I can. I've read this thing so many times here a couple of weeks ago that it's hate to have to do it again, but it was a feeling that you ought to know the questions that we ask all of the candidates. Question number one, our nation enjoys the highest standard of living of any country in the world. Most people concede the fact that collective bargaining has contributed much to this standard of living. The National Labor Relations Act, adopted in 1935, established the right of workers to organize for the purpose of collective bargaining and established a national policy of encouraging the collective bargaining process. Even though Congress has amended the act on several occasions, this fundamental part of the law has been retained. Do you believe that collective bargaining should be encouraged or discouraged in Mississippi? Would you be in favor of a bill giving public employees the right to organize for the purpose of collective bargaining? Number two, Mississippi is the only state in the Union that does not have a Department of Labor or a similar department to function as such. As a result of this voice, the welfare of wage earners is being sadly neglected. In the absence of such a department, no appropriate state agency exists to mediate labor disputes or compile and furnish vital information so necessary in an industrial society.
appreciate it if you'd get that and refer to it, particularly section 3 at the bottom of the page. Can you hear me in the back? Can you hear me? Better be on. Can you hear me now? Oh, knock it off now. You're going to hear me before I'm finished. I'll guarantee you that. In 1963 and 1967, the regular convention of the Mississippi AFL-CIO, Committee on Political Education, went on record in support of a bona fide two-party system of government in our state. The Mississippi AFL-CIO Executive Board recommends this position be reaffirmed at this convention, and that we once again advise all candidates for public office, for political office rather, that the Mississippi AFL-CIO and its affiliated organizations are not wedded to any political party, and the committee added as such. As in the past, we intend to judge candidates on the basis of the record and not on the basis of party affiliation. As a matter of fact, this organization stands ready and willing to support Republican candidates when those candidates prove to be better candidates than their Democratic opponents. The same rule also applies to candidates who are running independent of any political party. When the independent candidate establishes the fact that he or she is the best candidate, he can expect to receive the support of this organization. As we approach the 1971 election, we must take note of the fact that this is truly a crucial election year. The man who occupies the governor's office during the next 4 years will determine to a great extent whether or not we make progress, and we added something there, or drift into a state of stagnation. Special emphasis should be given to the man who is elected Speaker of the House of Representatives. Contrary to the beliefs of many people, the governor is not the most powerful man in state government. The most powerful man is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. He appoints all of the committees that considers each piece of legislation introduced. Each year we have seen many good bills die in committee because they were referred to a stacked committee. It is imperative that a progressive-minded man be elected as Speaker of the House by his colleagues when the legislature convenes next year. The Executive Board has taken note of the fact that a federal court recently reapportioned both houses of the Mississippi legislature. District lines have been redrawn in virtually all of the Senate and House districts. Several areas of the state will lose representation and others will gain. A careful study of the situation indicates gains will be in areas where we have many members residing. This means we have a golden opportunity to elect a number of friends as well as defeat a number of enemies, provided we do our job. We should see a progressive legislature convene in Jackson next January. Again, provided we do our job, that legislature should elect a progressive-minded speaker. The Executive Board is confident we will do the job and is calling upon the delegates to this convention to make sure it is done. The Executive Board, working through the Executive Committee, has attempted to interview all candidates running for district and statewide offices. A sincere effort was made to personally interview all candidates running for governor and lieutenant governor. Written questionnaires were mailed to candidates for other offices who had qualified with the Secretary of State. The board took note of the fact that a number of present office holders do not have opposition in this election. The executive board is proud of the fact that many of these people received our support 4 years ago. They have apparently done such a good job that no one would oppose them. In addition to governor and lieutenant governor, contest will take place. There we had a typographical error in 3 rather than 2 other statewide positions. They are the state treasurer, commissioner of insurance, and land commissioner. Executive board has carefully evaluated and studied the records of the candidates to these positions. In addition to studying records, we have also taken note of other groups or individuals
will come back and take action on each position that has been recommended, and of course, the last item on there will also be voted upon. The first position that we recommended was that of State Treasurer. We recommended that Rex McRaney receive the endorsement of this convention. You make a motion, Tom, that this be... The motion is that Rex McRaney receive the endorsement of this convention. Do we have any discussion on the motion? I might take just a half a minute of your time to tell you, I think you need to know this, that this is a most important position. You should be apprised of the fact that the governor of Mississippi, John Bell Williams, has handpicked Mr. Brad Dye for this position. Mr. Brad Dye managed the campaign of John Bell Williams 4 years ago, and according to the best information reliable, the kingmakers in this state have decided he should be the state treasurer for the next 4 years and then move him up into state office later on. I think you need to know this. Rex McRaney has a long record of public service. I don't know how many of you can recall it, but I recall it, that he was fired by Ross Barnett. Well, at that time, he was head of the Fish and Game Commission. And because Rex wouldn't play footsie with Ross and his crowd, he got the axe. That's some information I thought you ought to have. You ready to vote on that recommendation?
Right.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. The next position is that of Insurance Commissioner. The committee has recommended Miss Evelyn Gandy for this position, and Brother Knight moves that the convention endorse Miss Gandy. Do we have any discussion on that recommendation? Not all in favor of the motion to support Miss Gandy signified by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. The next one is Land Commissioner. The committee recommends the incumbent, Mr. Watt Carter, for that position. Do we have any discussion on the motion to endorse Mr. Watt Carter for State Land Commissioner? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. The next one was that of Lieutenant Governor. The committee recommends that we support William Winter for Lieutenant Governor. Do we have any discussion on the motion to support Mr. William Winter? Which I recognize as Mr. Billy Williams from Gulfport.
I'm Billy Williams, I'm president of Mississippi State Electrical Workers. As you all know, it's made up of all the locals of IBEWs in the state of Mississippi. And we're very disappointed in your selection for Lieutenant Governor. And the reason we are disappointed, I guess we all got a little guilty conscience, as some of our members have. It seems to me, or I've been told, that some of our members told Mr. Finch not to seek an open endorsement when he asked their advice in this particular campaign. Now, whether or not he would seek an open endorsement, I know in talking to Mr. Finch, I never had met the gentleman until yesterday, he said yes, if we recommended it, he would seek an open endorsement, but what did we recommend? Now, I think if you'll turn your pages as you just read, you'll see where your people running for governor that are supposed to be astute politicians. I don't see any of them seeking an open endorsement except one. That's Mr. Pittman. We feel that this candidate is worthy of more recognition and more study on this thing than he got. Now, I'm sure some of the committee, they made their recommendations and they done it with what they thought was best for everyone. But this candidate's running out of Batesville, Mississippi. In talking to the people here, I found that he's got a lot of support from organized labor. And then taking what Mr. Watt said this morning about the leaving here with unity, I think we're going to have to settle this issue here. Now, through an organization of Mississippi Electrical Workers, just that, and I'll have to tell you, we voted unanimously to support Cliff Finch for Lieutenant Governor. But we left it open and where we could move on it and all get together and support one candidate. Now, in your report here, I'm sure that you have in here that he indicated he felt an open endorsement by this convention. they had indicated to him that they thought that would be best in North Mississippi. I cannot disagree with them. I know you have to come and ask for an open endorsement hearing before you can get the help of the FSL office. But I think the membership was just asking themselves, what would I do? So they told him to just play it cool and soft. Don't ask for an open endorsement. And that's possibly one reason why he acted that way when the committee interviewed him. I don't know. And this attitude of being strange, I'm sure if I was in Mr. Finch's position and I was answering questions to the committee and you had another politician of the caliber of William Winter answering the questions, I'd look strange too, because I wouldn't know too much what I was doing, and I'm sure William Winter is well versed in answering the questions. He's been before the committee many times. One other thing that kind of goes against the grain is we wonder which side is William Winter on. One time Mr. Winter comes to us with open arms. He says, endorse me, I'm your boy. The next time he says, I don't know you people. I don't want your endorsement. Give it to me under the table, but I really don't want it. I don't have to have it. I'm going to run for governor. I'm going to be your governor. But he was defeated. He was defeated because organized labor, I think, at that time turned completely against him. Now, we have no bones to pick with Mr. Winter. He's a well-qualified candidate. He's got a lot of financial backing that we don't like, coming from a source we can't prove. But whenever Mr. William Winter, if he was successful in being your lieutenant governor, you mark my word, in 4 years, I think it's set up that he would be your governor. Brad Dye would be your lieutenant governor, and in 4 years after that, we'd have Mr. Dye for governor. Now, that's the way the situation is, and I just wanted to report to you what we have done and what action we've taken, and some of the other delegates, I think, want to talk, and I want to take up your time any longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Banner. Brother Beckham, T.G. Beckham.
T.G. Beckham, IBEW Local Union 1435, Jackson, Mississippi. Mr. Chairman and delegate, I made a motion yesterday in our statewide meeting to adopt the committee's report. But when they got into the discussion stage and things was brought out that I couldn't stomach, I never have been able to, and that is Jim Eastland with William Winters in his hip pocket and Brad Dye in his hip pocket. Now, anybody that can stomach Jim Eastland until the day that he dies, then I say support William Winters and Brad Dye. After hearing the discussion, I asked my motion to be withdrawn because I made the motion to support the committee's report. But after hearing the discussions, I couldn't do it. Then I made a motion that we support the other candidate since there was an endorsement. But at this time, the electrical workers of this state, which cover the whole state and a lot of local unions and a lot of members, we recommend that the Lieutenant Governor's office be put on the same basis as the Governor's office, no endorsement.
Discussion, I think we should advise you who sat on the interviewing committee. We started out trying to use the full executive committee as the interviewing committee, and several members were not able to be present. So we substituted several members of the board for those members. And I'd like to read out the names of those people that sat on the interview committee, because I think you need to know who they are, and I think probably you're going to want to hear from a few of them. Ms. Linda Hawks from CWA up in the Batesville area. Mr. E.V. Edwards from Tupelo, one of our vice presidents. Vice President James Jackson from Hattiesburg. Vice President C.E. Schaefer, who is incidentally a member of one of the electrical locals. Robert Woodson, J.W. Rainey, Herbert Williams, Tom Knight, and myself. All right, now who wants the floor? I thought you ought to know who was on the committee. Brother Broom? We'll get Brother Broom, he was headed in, we'll get
I'm
you
sorry.
next.
Porter Broom, Columbia, Mississippi, ACWA, local 708. Gentlemen, and ladies, I'd like to ask one question. If Mr. William Leonard is elected Lieutenant Governor of the state of Mississippi this year, what would our chances be of getting Mr. Case as Speaker of the House beginning in 1972? I'd just like for you to think of that. Thank you.
Well, frankly, I don't think that the Lieutenant Governor will have too much of a bearing on that particular situation. The Governor might have more bearing than the Lieutenant Governor on who fills that Speaker's position. The gentleman that started for the mic there a few minutes ago.
I'm Albert Byers from 474 IBEW, Memphis. In talking to Mr. Finch, and we have been talking to him for a period of several months now on problems that we've got in North Mississippi, I've certainly found him to be a friend of labor. He's assisted me in many things. He's always willing to listen to any problems that we have. You're talking about the working people, which we all are. He's one of us. He was raised that way. He doesn't know anything else. He doesn't have support from the Manufacturers Association. There's no Bankers Association supporting him. There's very few of the country clubs that support him. He is our kind of people. He talks the same language that we talk. He was given some information that was obviously the wrong information at the time he went before the screening committee. And he did ask the screening committee what their recommendations would be. I think the delegates should be made aware of these facts before they make this decision today, and at least reevaluate or reconsider the decisions that they've made so far. This man would be a friend of labor. He would be an asset to all of us, and I think he's due this consideration.
Who wants it? Ray? Ray Smith. Let Ray Smith have it from the back of your Clark, and you get it next.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we have two motions on this floor, do we not?
There's only one motion, and that was to adopt the recommendations of the committee. There hasn't been any motion offered. There's been some suggestions made.
Did you not make a motion? I thought you made a motion that we...
I recommend it. If you want it in the form of a motion, I'll be glad to make it.
We can't have two motions on the floor at the same time. Let's dispose of the first one.
The motion is to, of course, adopt the committee's recommendation to endorse William Winter for Lieutenant Governor. I think we ought to hear from some members of the committee that sat on that committee. Unfortunately, Brother Schaefer could not be here today. He did sit through the interviews of both candidates, and well, I'm sure would support the committee's recommendation were he here. We have board member Linda Hawks from up in the Batesville area who sat through all of this ordeal of interviewing the candidates. She is personally acquainted with Mr. Cliff Finch, and she was awfully disappointed in Mr. Finch's appearance and actions before the committee. So at this time, I'm going to recognize Linda Hawks.
Thank you, Clyde. I was disappointed in Mr. Finch. I came to Jackson with probably the same idea that most of these fellows with IBEW have. And I had a high recommendation for him when I came to the city and we started screening these candidates. The night he appeared with us, and after answering several of our questions evasively, my mind started wandering, and I got to wondering if I even knew the fellow. Well, the further we went, the worse it got. And he started answering our questions with a question. Well, I'm the type person that if I ask you a question, I want you to give me an answer. Mr. Finch did not, and finally got to the point that Claude and Tom backed away from the table. They were not in the argument with us, and we didn't want to argue with Mr. Finch, but there were some issues there that he was afraid that he was leading himself into and didn't know how to get out of. Well, how can you expect a man in the office of Lieutenant Governor of this state, where, in my opinion, there's one heartbeat between he and the governor? I think about this a lot. A lot of people may not. Maybe I'm silly in my thoughts or juvenile, I don't know. But I think about the guy I'm going to put in the office of Lieutenant Governor, or that I'd like to see put in the office of Lieutenant Governor, that he could very likely be the governor of this state. And we'd be in a sad state of affairs in the state of Mississippi if we sat back and elected Cliff Finch, or saw him elected to the office of Lieutenant Governor, and something did happen to the governor and he took over that office. He did not answer our questions directly. He never did. I asked the gentleman point blank, did he want the support of organized labor in the state of Mississippi, and I asked for him to give me a yes or no answer. I didn't get an answer. I got another question from him. I'm disappointed in him. I've lived in that part of the country all of my life, and ever since he's been district attorney there, he has helped the working people in that area, I'm sure. He's been a claimant's attorney up there, and as far as I know, his record as attorney has been good. But he wants, for the people of Mississippi, and he's going to open that office down there to the people. Well, that's going to be a hell of a mess when he's got an office full of people down there, and he ain't going to know what's going on. That office is not that big if he's going to let the people come in and run it. And I'm disappointed in him, and I cannot, and I will not, back Mr. Finch for Lieutenant Governor.
Brother Edwards, I promised it to Brother Massey. You can have it behind him, please. Brother Clark Massey.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Clark Massey, CLU President in Jackson County. I guess I'm always getting myself into trouble. I stay in trouble. My wife says well, to make long matters short, yesterday I was sitting in on a meeting that I shouldn't have been in the first place. I didn't recognize it until I'd been in there a little while, and I apologize to Claude. I was in the council meeting, and I'm just a little two-bit president of the CLU, and I was on a board meeting, executive board meeting. But they allowed me to sit in there, and I listened, and I learned a lot, and I enjoyed it. Well, Claude made the report that, now, if I'm out of line, Claude, call me down. Would you do that?
Go right ahead.
Claude made the report that everything seemed to be running real smooth except one little problem. The Lieutenant Governor, that he had heard that IBEW had a little opposition. I said, Claude, under the county, off the record, I said, I'll take care of that. I'm not IBEW man, I'll take care of that. This afternoon we're having a meeting, I'll take care of it. So I went over with the intention of taking care of that problem, because I've been a William Winter man for years. 4 years. I believe in democracy, and 4 years ago, the decision of this council to back William Winters, and I did. Well, it wasn't openly, it was like this thing is now, just kind of under the counter deal, but I did everything I could for William Winters 4 years ago. And I still think William Winters is a fine man. I think he'd make a fine lieutenant governor. But when I went over to convince these boys, IBEW, that they should stay off of this deal, by golly, after hearing a bunch of stuff pertaining to Jim Eastland, I don't know whether there's anything there or not, but after hearing all this stuff, they caused me to make a 180-degree flip. I don't know why. I met Mr. Finch, and I liked him. He talked good. he made some statements to the IBEW committee there yesterday afternoon. And he made this statement about the question that was asked to him, whether or not he openly wanted the support of organized labor. And he said, if you people think that's what I need, I'll want it. I'll leave it at your discretion. What do you want? I want to be lieutenant governor, he said. I want to serve you people. What do y'all want me to do? And I asked Mr. Finch this question. I said, Mr. Finch, did you make that statement to the AFL-CIO council? Was that your attitude then, as it is now, that you wanted their advice? And in asking around, I found out that some of AFL-CIO people had advised him to answer that question in that respect. Ask them what they thought was best. Should he ask for an open endorsement, or should he not? And accept whatever the decision of the committee was in that respect. And that's what he stated then, that it was his intention to get the wishes of the committee, whether or not the committee thought that was best. He wanted to be lieutenant governor. He wanted to serve us. And he assured us, and he convinced me, and I don't have anything in the world against William Winters. I think he's a fine man. I think he'd make a fine lieutenant governor. But after meeting this guy and hearing him and listening to him and analyzing him, I think he would make a good lieutenant governor too. So I'm just forced to go along with Brother Beckham and I can't make a motion because it's not in order, but I like the people to think about the problem or their suggestion of a not endorsement on lieutenant governor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Clark, thank you. The chair will now recognize Vice President E.V. Edwards from Tupelo. While he's coming up, let me answer one of Clark Mass's statements about what Mr. Finch said to them about seeking advice on whether or not he should seek the open endorsement. He did make that statement to the committee, but we didn't feel that the committee was there to advise candidates as to whether they ought to seek an open endorsement. We were there to interview them and get their positions on the issues that we're concerned about. And we almost got into a situation with him before it's all over with, that he was getting us in a position to beg him to seek our endorsement, and that wasn't the purpose of our interview committee. Brother Edwards.
I'm E.V. Edwards, Vice President, AFL-CIO, State of Mississippi. This is my second time to serve on the interviewing committee. I served 4 years ago. Being from Northeast Mississippi, I have been involved in area politics and statewide politics for a number of years. People talking about Mr. Finch and Mr. Winter, their qualifications and how well they're known and all. Being involved in politics as much as I have, the first time that I ever heard of Mr. Cliff Finch was about 3 weeks ago. I received a letter in the mail. I don't know how he got my name, but I received a letter in the mail with some campaign cards in it, and a letter addressed to the Honorable Mr. and Mrs. E.V. Edwards. Evidently this gentleman has the names of local presidents and the CLU officers, and he is addressing letters to their attention and calling them honorable. I don't mind being called honorable, but I think this is a political trick to get my support. I never knew Mr. Finch, never met him before until he walked in the screening committee's room. But I was the one that, incidentally, I would like to advise you that we made a tape recording of all of the answers of all of the candidates that we interviewed. And some of the statements that have been made here by some people who have taken this microphone is not true. They're not on the tape. So We have a tape of the interview with Mr. Finch and also with Mr. Winter and all of the candidates that we interviewed for governor. And in his answer to my original question, do you, Mr. Finch, want the open endorsement of this body? He came back and he did not answer my question. He asked me a question. And in trying to answer his question, why, the ramification run on for about 10 or 15 minutes, and Ms. Hawks, who was a member of the screening committee, who knew Mr. Finch, and incidentally, when in the original meeting of the committee, Ms. Hawks says, just wait till you get to my candidate for lieutenant governor. Will you hear him? Says he's a my perfect choice for lieutenant governor. And Ms. Hawks had given him such a build-up for the committee to hear what he had to say and the evasive manner in which he answered our questions. I was really disappointed in the decision of Ms. Hawks that she had previously made. But getting back to the interview, when the thing drug on so long, why, Ms. Hawks just kind of lost her cool, you'd say, and she said, well, Cliff, answer the question yes or no. Said, I want to ask it again. Do you want our public endorsement? And we haven't got an answer yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Edmund. Now, let me call your attention to a fact now. According to the rules that was just adopted, speakers allowed 5 minutes, and it looks like we're going to have quite a discussion. I just want to put you on notice that we're going to have to invoke the rule and limit speakers to 5 minutes if we get out of here in time for you to, finish your business. Brother Rainey, you want the floor? Brother J.W. Rainey, who was on the interviewing committee.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry that I wasn't on the interview for lieutenant governor. I was tied up and unable to make that interview, but I was sitting on the committee meetings for the other interviews and heard the discussions of the board members, and I can assure you that Mr. Finch walked in that meeting with the endorsement of this committee. Everyone on there was convinced that he was going to be the candidate from Claude Ramsey, Tom Knight, Diane Hawks, right on down. And for a man to walk in a committee that he had the open endorsement, the endorsement of the committee in his hands, and to blow it, he must be pretty bad off. And I can urge you that no man that'll do something like this is going to be elected governor of Mississippi, whether we support him or whether we don't support him.
Thank you. Shall I recognize that Brother Franks?
Mr. Chairman, I know Cliff Finch personally. He's the only candidate we have in the state of Mississippi at the present time that has come in Corinth, Mississippi, and come to our little labor center we got down on 301 Foot Street. Now, I don't know all the report of the committee, how they questioned him, but at this time, if it's in order, I'd like to hear this recorder played. Because Brother in our organization up there has asked me that we interview this man closely because he is a laborer's friend. The people in Memphis has called me, some insurance companies, and I feel this way. If Tennessee can come down in Mississippi and get a governor and get him elected, we ought to be able to take their advice from Tennessee and get us a lieutenant governor elected. Thank you.
Well, let me advise you this, Joe. You made some kind of a request about hearing the tape of the candidates. Now, the interviews lasted anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. And if we play one, I think we should play them both, which means we're talking now of about a 3-hour period. Now, I feel obligated to support the recommendations of the executive committee because these people spent many long hours interviewing these candidates. We started out on a Sunday afternoon at 6 o'clock. We wound up on Tuesday night at midnight with Mr. Finch. And this committee has diligently worked at trying to bring to you the facts as they see them. We were all disappointed, frankly, on the committee in the performance of Mr. Finch before the interviewing committee. We had been led to believe that Mr. Finch was gonna really answer our questions, and he was gonna make an all-out appeal for organized labor support in this election. He did a lousy job, friends. He did a real poor job. When Bill Winter, after we'd interviewed him, I turned to the committee. I said, well, if Mr. Finch comes through like Mr. Winter came through, we're gonna have us a tough decision to make. Well, J.W. Rainey explained it to you. He came in there before the committee and actually blowed the thing slap out of the water. There's no question in my mind about the fact that William Winter, regardless of what you might think about his position 4 years ago, has decided he made one hell of a mistake 4 years ago in not seeking the open endorsement of this convention, and that he now realizes full well that he might have been governor had he sought the support of this convention like he should have. And he told us in the committee, he told us just that. And we have been honest with you. The report that we presented to you is factual, it's to the point, and we've tried to give you as much information as we can about the interviews of the candidates for governor and lieutenant governor. Okay, Ray, you want the floor again? Ray Smith.
Seems that our people are divided right now, and some are saying they're going away irregardless. So in these talks that are made up here, if we're going away from here half divided, I think we should vote this motion down and come back with a motion that we don't support any lieutenant governor, rather than go away from here divided. Now, I call for the previous question.
Well, did you move the previous question? That closed off all debate. Did you offer that motion, Ray? Brother Smith moved the previous question, which means if that motion is adopted, all debate will cease and we'll take a vote on the motion to endorse William Winter. We have any discussion? Well, there is no discussion permitted on that motion. We'll have to vote on it now. We get a second. Now it will require a 30% vote, I believe, to invoke the previous question. How many of you in favor of the previous question? Well, let's just go ahead and put it to vote. We won't get bogged down in that. All in favor of the previous question to close off debate, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Opinion of the chair, the motion's carried, and there will be no more debate. We will now get back and vote on the motion to endorse William Winter for lieutenant governor. And I should advise you, I think, that in order to endorse a candidate, we must have a 2/3 vote. So we'll have to do this by a standing vote. All in favor of the motion to adopt the committee's recommendations in support of William Winter, will you please stand? All stand to adopt the committee's recommendation. Does everybody understand what you're voting on? You're in favor of endorsing William Winter, you will stand. Huh? We'll have to ask the sergeant at arms to count the votes because it's going to be important in final analysis. Will you guys please stand and we'll ask you to count the votes.
I gotta go along with leaving the screen, that's what I'm doing. I ain't talking to the man I don't even know him.
know lost last time, saying without the support of labor, he didn't want it. He sees now he needs it. He might be a good man for the office. That's the reason I'm going to go along with the screening committee.
How many?
Supporting William Wonder.
7. Delegates can be seated. Now, according to my count, according to the report of the Credentials Committee, we have 236 delegates in attendance. We had 97 to vote for the committee's recommendation, which means we have not secured the necessary two-thirds vote, which in turn means that we cannot endorse a candidate for lieutenant governor. All right, that's disposed of. Now we get on to the last recommendation. And that recommendation, let me refresh it in your mind. I'll just read it to you. It's on the bottom of the last page. About how the committee feels that the committee that we not take a position in the governor's race before the first primary, and that you authorize the executive committee itself to examine the situation after the first primary, that you recess this convention instead of adjourning it. In other words, that you authorize the executive committee to reconvene this convention after the first primary if we think we ought to get you back together again and take a position between the first and second. This is the guts of the proposition. Does everybody understand it? The motion is that this be done. We have any discussion on that motion? That means that the delegates at this convention will be reconvened. There won't be any new credentials sent out. It'll be simply the same delegates at this convention will be called back together in the event we deem it necessary. We felt like we ought to provide some machinery if this were to happen. On the motion. All in favor of that motion signify it by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now, we've got a couple of other things that we need to get out of the way. Yes. All right. Yeah, you'll get the change on the announcement. Now, we will again remind you that as soon as we adjourn for lunch, we'd like to ask the delegates from the Southern Highway District, Public Service Districts, which are the same, and the Northern Districts to remain in the room. We'll ask the Northern District to meet in that end of the room, the Southern District in this end of the room. We'd like to ask Brother E.V. Edwards, one of our vice presidents, to convene and chair the Northern District. And we'd like to ask Brother H.H. Robbins, one of our vice presidents on the coast, to chair and convene the caucus of the delegates from the Southern District. We want this done immediately upon adjournment of this group. In the meantime, I'd like to recommend to you, those of you that live in the Central District who will not have to caucus, that you proceed to try to get checked out of the motel while these caucuses are going on and make it a little bit easier on everybody else. Now, we're down now to good and well.
Chairman, Russell Kelly, delegate, business representative, Machinist Local 1133, in Pascagoula. In our caucus, the machinist delegates will have 9 delegates in attendance. We pass the hat, take up a little money for the coaches. Those 9 delegates donated $75, a little over $8 apiece. They asked me to come before this convention to challenge all the delegates to match this $8 per delegate, and it's about as proper a situation as the lieutenant governor when you get up and ask people to donate money. But it's people like you and I at this convention are the
people that's gotta finance these candidates if and when we select them. And if we don't finance them, our rank and file members not gonna finance them, so we got to show some leadership. I imagine there's probably 45 people lined up behind me to get the floor. But, at this time, I would like to ask some of the machinists to pass the hat and see if we can get some more money for Coke to finance these people that we want to elect. We need to elect them too.
Brother Kelly, let me make your suggestion. You get your sergeant at arms at the doors, and if the delegates come out, if they want to make a contribution, just let them drop it in the hat.
Okay, I also have a check for $100 from the machinist local, 1133, made out to state FLCIO. And I would like to encourage all the delegates to go back to their local, see if they can get their local, reach down a little deeper in the treasure and make some more donations to the state coast, because we need all the money we can, and this is the only way we can get it through donations. Thank you.
Clyde Anson is wanted on the telephone. Clyde Anson, Delegate Clyde Anson, step outside and get the telephone. Brother Matthew.
Mr. Chairman, the first thing I'd like to do is compliment the executive board for an excellent job on screening the committee of candidates in state Mississippi. I think they did an excellent job, and I think they deserve a good hand. And also the president and secretary and the nice little lady sitting up there did all the secretarial work. Thank you too, Peggy. As good of the union, or welfare of the organization, whatever you want to call it, I feel very proud and honored to announce that Charles Sullivan, candidate for governor of the state of Mississippi, was offered the office campaign headquarters in our BEW's local meeting hall in South Jerusalem. He came down and accepted it with honor. And at the ribbon cutting ceremony, he came down with a group of about 25 of us came in, including the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and said, Clark, we're certainly glad to have you boys on our team. And I felt very honored, and I told him we were honored to be on his team, Lieutenant. So even though we can't support him openly, which is good, I think that's good, because if it costs us some votes, and we don't want to do that. We want to elect him. We want to put a man in the office of the governor of the state of Mississippi, and we're going to do it. If we don't do it in the first primary, it'll surprise me. And that's an honor for anybody in the state of Mississippi. But I just want to make that announcement that he does have his campaign headquarters in the building that belongs to organized labor on the Gulf Coast. And he feels honored, and we feel honored to have him. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Clark. Now, we're going to try to bring it to a close as soon as we can. Brother Knight, you got some announcements I believe you want to make.
really set up an organization that can coordinate the efforts of this campaign and get out here and go to work and elect the candidate that we have endorsed and will endorse, then we're wasting our time. You wasted your time in coming, brother. State AFL-CIO is going to continue as it has in the past to do everything that we are big enough to do to support every local council and every local union in this state to try to help you elect the people that you endorse in your area. But listen, my friend, we have got somehow or other to get the attention of the membership back home. Now, I don't have the answer to that, and I don't think anybody else in this room or this state or this country, for that matter, has got the answer to that. But that don't mean we got to sit down on the stool or do nothing and just let the world go by. Let me say to you one more time, and if we intend to move this state forward and put somebody else down here to sit on that $27,000 commode behind that $135,000 fence, then we better get at it. And if we're going to elect Hilton Case that stood here this morning and poured his heart and soul out to you, a man that's dedicated to really doing something in this state, if we're going to elect him Speaker of the House, then we got to get out there and get with it and let them candidates for the House know that so far as we are concerned, if they're going with John Junkin, then they can just go to hell. So I say to you now that the election is on, and where we have always had 2 months between this convention and the first primary, we've got 5 weeks. I know we've wrote the central body off. We've pressed, but we've had to. If we're to do anything, if we're to inform the membership of our decisions and the people we've endorsed, if we're to get a piece of material or literature of every candidate in the hands of every qualified voter, then, my friends, we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and throw off our shoes and get out there where it's at. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. That was a very timely announcement. The words of Al Barkin, on to victory, is what Al says, on to victory. All right. Do we have anything else that needs to come up before we break up for